Coming up on today's show, Denver was linked to a running back in an ESPN articles report-ish, so we're going to break that down. Plus, we're going to talk about the Broncos possibly trading KJ Hamler as CBS Sports suggested they do so. But make sure to subscribe if you have not already, as we have daily coverage for your favorite team all off season long. Now, the biggest topic of discussion in Denver right now is not about the Broncos, believe it or not. It is about the Nuggets right now, who are in a very competitive series with the Phoenix Suns. And I want to get the pulse of everyone watching right now from last night's game with an altercation with the Suns owner and Nikola Jokic. Who is more in the wrong, right? Is it Matt Ishbia for putting his hands on Jokic, or is it for Jokic for being the Joker, right? For shoving him a little bit of a love push, a little love tap or whatever, and getting him off of him. Let me know who do you think is more in the wrong in the comment section. I'm very curious to see what the vote is going to look like here. Now, let's get back to some Broncos football talk, though, as Kareem Hunt was a potential running back for Denver. Here's the story. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler said the Broncos are a team to watch for when it comes to Kareem Hunt. Now, Hunt is coming off a career-low season with the Cleveland Browns. He turns 28 years old in August. Last year for the Browns, though, like I said, not a season to remember. Career lows in average and yards per carry and yards per reception. 4 touchdowns, 2 of which came in the first week of the season. So the production really dropped off after a couple of weeks into 2022. Now, go back in time, because this is not the first time we have been told that Kareem Hunt might be going to the Browns. Matthew Berry, right after the NFL Combine, so back in February, March-ish, said, don't be surprised if the Broncos wind up with Kareem Hunt when all is said and done. So the Kareem Hunt to Denver buzz/rumors have been there for quite some time. What has not been there is any interest in Kareem Hunt. Like, I have not heard a peep this offseason of any team just showing Kareem Hunt or having any sort of interest, right? Last season for the Browns, 468 rushing yards, 210 receiving yards, and 3.8 yards a carry. Now, I'm not going to knock him for not getting a ton of rushing yards as an RB2 behind Nick Chubb, but under 4 yards a carry and you're getting towards 30, teams are likely going to go a different direction. Now, his saving grace is Denver does not have a lot of depth in the running back room right now. Javonte Williams is the ultimate wild card unknown. No one knows when he is going to return. Is it going to be on the first half of the season, the second half, or might he just miss the entire season altogether? So then you look at the rest of the room and you go, Samaje Perine, Tony Jones, who? Tyreek McCall, who? Croc, who? Like, a lot of, never heard of him before. So are they going to roll the dice with these players, or are they going to go and try and bring in a familiar face? Now, Perine, when it comes to him being the primary, bell cow back until Javonte Williams returns, I don't think that's a good role for him. Like, even if Javonte Williams, if I know right now, hey, he is returning to the field week 6. Yeah, it's only 5 weeks, but if you want to get the best out of your football team in those first 5 weeks, letting Samaje Perine get 25 to 30 carries a game is probably not the way to go. And I don't think the alternative is, well, until Williams returns, let's have Russ throw the football 35, 40 times. Like, nope, you're going to want to run the football. You signed 2 offensive linemen this offseason who are both geared to help run block. Go get a good running back room so that you didn't just invest in this offensive line and there's no one in the backfield who can capitalize on it. On one hand, you need another running back, but is Kareem Hunt the guy for the job? I don't think so. He looked a bit washed, or at least he looked like someone who was on his way to becoming washed. He just sort of looked like he lost a step for the Browns last season. The speed and the burst element wasn't there. Maybe a change of scenery and a different scheme and all that good stuff to do some wonders for him. I'm not saying he's going to be bad if he signs anywhere this year, but I don't want to bet on it myself. So I'll let someone else take the risk. I personally am not in on Kareem Hunt having a big impactful season for Denver in 2022 or 2023. So be the GM for me. Should the Broncos sign Kareem Hunt? Yes or no? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section. When it comes to signing number 27, do you think the Broncos should go out and sign the former Browns running back? One thing I will add to this note here is watch for a closer signing to camp, right? OTAs is probably not going to reveal a whole lot for Javonte Williams because it's only May, right? You still have June, July, August, like 3 months worth of recovery still in front of him. But if August rolls around, training camp opens up, I fully expect Javonte Williams to start on the PUP list, and they're starting to get an idea of, hey, he's on the PUP list and he ain't coming off it anytime soon. Well, maybe then you go out and you look and see who's still a free agent. You go, now that we know or we have a better picture of Javonte Williams's, availability for 2023, now let's go sign a running back. Now that we understand when Williams is coming back or not coming back potentially. Moving on to the next segment on the show, can we talk about KJ Hamler getting traded potentially? So CBS Sports suggested the Broncos trade KJ Hamler to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Denver, of course, added another wide receiver in the draft, Marvin Mims, and a lot of teams have started to connect the dots and starting to ask questions. Might we see a trade with another wide receiver in the mix here? I don't think you're going to see a Jerry Jeudy or Courtland Sutton move. A big reason is if they were going to trade them, obviously they want to do it before the draft, because if you do it before the draft, well, then you get to draft a replacement, right? If you trade him right now, well, you don't have Jerry Jeudy or Courtland Sutton for 2023, and you also don't have that draft pick for 2023, right? You have to go a full season without the player or the player you would have picked from the trade compensation you would have gotten for Jeudy or Sutton. And so when that happens, the trade value goes up, right? Teams want more because as a GM now, you're thinking, man, I don't have Jerry Jeudy, and whatever pick you're going to give me, I don't have that player this season as well. I've got to wait till the next draft. So if it used to cost a third, let's say, for Courtland Sutton, even though I think it was a second, well, it just went up a little bit because now teams are going to want more for these players. So KJ Hamler, is he going to be available for a trade? He's entering the last year of his contract. We're going to look at some stats, and I'll give you my opinion on it in just a brief moment. But there is a great deal going on at Fanatics I wanted to get you guys in on. When you go to chatsports.com/DEN combo, you can get this 2-shirt combo on sale, by the way. So get a short sleeve and a long sleeve t-shirt, thanks to Fanatics, on sale when you use our exclusive link. It's in the comments and the description of today's video. So Cody Benjamin was the one who wrote about potentially trading KJ Hamler in a CBS Sports article, saying, Hamler is relatively redundant in Denver after the Broncos traded up to draft a smaller but speedy Marvin Mims Jr. in the second round, and the Eagles could afford to add downfield competition for Quez Watkins. They did sign ex-Falcons wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus as well, but he projects and so on and so forth. But KJ Hamler, though, through 3 seasons so far, it's been a lack of availability, right? We understand that by now. The injury he suffered 2 seasons ago was basically a 2-season injury because even last year, it looked like he was far from the speed demon Denver selected in round 2 from Penn State. Just 620 career yards and 3 touchdowns. Unfortunately, this might be one of those big what-ifs if KJ Hamler doesn't suffer a major ACL and hip injury in 2021 that really took the wind out of his sails, and that was his biggest strength. Denver's wide receiver room is kind of packed. So if Denver receives calls during training camp, I am sure they're going to listen to those calls because KJ Hamler, Marquez Callaway, Kendall Hinton, Jalen Virgil, Montrell Washington, Brandon Johnson, like all those players were on the active 53-man roster last year. They all can't be on it again this year. So someone is going to get cut or traded. And if they know they have to cut someone, maybe they look to get some sort of draft pick. If I had to pick which 6 wide receivers make the roster, and I'm thinking Denver does go with just 6, Jerry Jeudy, Patrick, Sutton, and Mims, they are all locks. Like they are going to be on it one way or another. Hamler and Callaway are going to compete with the other guys we talked about for the last two positions. And Hamler might get that last spot just because he's a former second-round pick, and Denver doesn't want to give up on him and let him get cut. Callaway was signed in free agency, I think for a reason. They see a role for him on this roster. So the other guys, those aren't Sean Payton guys. And Sean Payton, he signed Marquez Callaway, and he probably doesn't want to give him a second rounder this quickly. So for that reason, those are going to be my 6 wide receivers. But if Denver goes, listen, KJ Hamler is no different than Brandon Johnson, Jalen Virgil, or Kendall Hinton in our eyes, let's trade Hamler for, say, a 6th-round pick, and then we get to get one of those guys on our roster. So now we get a pick and a player for the last wide receiver who honestly doesn't really even see the field that much. So if I had to project what a trade could look like, it ain't going to be much. It's a future 6th-round pick. Like, that's just the value for a player like Hamler who has not had a crazy amount of production. I mean, Jalen Reagor from Philly to Minnesota went for a similar amount, and he was a 1st-round pick. So I think this is probably the best you're going to get if you're Denver. And honestly, you probably won't even get that many calls. Teams will just wait for you to cut him, and then you'll pick him up off the waiver wire. So would you do this trade? Trade or pass? Man, it kind of stinks giving up on KJ Hamler for just a 6th-round pick. But at the same time, is he going to make the roster? Because if you think not, well, then you probably should get something for him before you just cut him, right? Maybe it's worth seeing if he can bounce back from that horrible injury he suffered back in 2021, but he may very well be cut. And so if that's the case, then you could probably just hold on to him and not sell him for a 6th-round pick, right? So that's my take right there. If you want to wait and see if he can bounce back from the injury, yeah, hold on to him, right? And hopefully he gets back to that 2nd-round status, and it's just rough start to his career. But getting a future 6 for him, you're not going to do a whole lot with that 6. You're basically just ready to move on, give him a fresh start somewhere else, and you get something for him because something is better than nothing. But if Denver is starting to get through camp and they're like, hey, we really like what we see out of Marquez Callaway and, say, Jalen Virgil and or Brandon Johnson or Kendall Hinton, and Hamler looks good, but all these guys are looking good, well, maybe no one's going to call and trade for Jalen Virgil. He's a UDFA. He's not going to get a whole lot of notoriety. But a 2nd-round pick, GMs might perk their ears up a little bit, and they might pick up the phone and go, yeah, it's worth giving up a future 6th or 7th for that type of speed if he can recapture it 2 seasons removed from his ACL injury. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have not subscribed, make sure you go ahead and do so. Don't miss a thing on the Denver Broncos all off season long.